Imagine being overshadowed, bullied, and constantly seeking validation from those who should love you the most. That is Aemond Targaryen. The fierce dragon rider hides a world of pain behind his hardened exterior. In today's video, we're peeling back the layers of Aemond's psyche to uncover the vulnerable, sensitive soul hidden beneath his armor. Join me as we dive into the minds of one of House Targaryen's most misunderstood members. Aemond Targaryen is born the second son of Viserys and Alicent, and due to being the second son, he was doomed to a life of being neglected since birth. Aegon being Viserys' first living son, and the fact that Rhaenyra was already named heir to the Iron Throne means that at his point of birth, Aemond was third in line for the Iron Throne, and once Rhaenyra and Aegon started having kids, his dreams of ever sitting on the Iron Throne were squashed as a child. And as a child, not only was he second fiddle to Aegon, he's also second fiddle to Rhaenyra's bastard son, Jace Valerion, who is heir to Rhaenyra, therefore heir to the Iron Throne. So his older brother and his older cousin both sit above him, and they bullied him as a kid. Aegon had a dragon, Jace had a dragon, and because they had them and Aemond didn't, while Aemond was older than Jace, they bullied him. They brought out a pig with wings. They really hurt his feelings. His father neglected him. His older sister, Rhaenyra, was always looking over her shoulder at Aegon, never paid Aemond any mind. So on top of being neglected by those around him, those close to him in age were also bullying him, therefore making him insecure and self-conscious and creating an angry child. And we see this anger manifest against Rhaenyra's side of the family, because ultimately everyone in the kingdom knows that those kids are bastards, yet the bastards are being treated better than Aemond. His father seems to love the Valerion children more than he loves Aemond, and the fact that Aegon is his firstborn, he can do no wrong in Viserys' eyes, even though he doesn't see him as heir. He's still Viserys' firstborn son, his pride and joy, second only to Rhaenyra, and that puts Aemond at a distant last place when it comes to his father's affection, when it comes to his older sister's affection, even his older brother. And during his childhood, we see that he just wants to be accepted. He wants to be friends with Jace. He wants to be friends with Aegon. But because he's not up to par, because his importance and his status quo isn't on par with theirs, they look down on him, which causes him to go after Vhagar, which causes him to have an obsession over dragons and seeing dragon power as being might. Might is right, making him one of the characters on this show who most embody the Targaryen legacy. Him seeing a dragon, taming a dragon, becoming a great warrior is something that can carve his name in history, is something that can give him importance. Because he has none in the line of succession, Aemond has to make a name for himself. He steals Vhagar. After he tames the dragon, he does the first flight. He fights off all of his cousins. It's a 4v1. They're jumping him and he's beating all of them. Even though he's older by like a year or so, he's still beating all of them down. And that goes to show he's a trained fighter. He's more than capable, but his importance is neglected and diminished yet again after he loses his eye. His father doesn't blame the other kids. Rhaenyra doesn't care because her kids were assaulted. Aegon doesn't care. It's only Alicent who actually wants justice for Aemond. And Aemond sees this. He realizes at a young age that I have the support of my mother and that's about it. And now I have to be strong. So that's why he said it's a fair trade, an eye for a dragon. And that also creates his fixation and his need for a mother figure, which we're going to dive into later in the video, as we saw in the latest episode of House of the Dragon. Aemond not only lives in the shadow of Aegon and Rhaenyra, he also lives in the shadow of Daemon Targaryen. Viserys named Aemond after his brother, his strong warrior brother, who at this point, Daemon was a legend. Dragon rider, accomplished warrior. He was the most badass person in the land and his legend preceded him. And the fact that Viserys named Aemond after Daemon was to him a great honor. He looked up to Daemon. He saw Daemon's accomplishments. He heard about them and he wanted to be like that. But the funny thing about all of that, and what probably hurts Aemond the most, is the fact that Daemon never paid him any mind. I don't think Daemon has ever acknowledged Aemond's existence in the show thus far. And for someone who you're named after, your uncle, who comes to town and doesn't even acknowledge you, and you see Daemon move around, Daemon is in a sense exactly who Aemond is. He was the second son and therefore loses all claim to the older son and his descendants. So he has no claims to the Iron Throne, just like Daemon. They're so far down the line of succession, but Daemon was still able to make a name for himself with his dragon, with his fighting prowess, with him winning the war, which is why Aemond wants to be like Daemon. When he is in the brothel and he's divulging his feelings and he's letting the woman who's taking care of him know what he's feeling, the fact that he realized that they were after his life, the fact that he realized it was Daemon who sent the assassins and the assassins came after him, he believed in his own self-importance in Daemon's eyes. He saw it as validation. He said himself that his uncle respects him. That means his uncle fears him, which we all know is contrary to the popular belief. In Daemon's mind, he was only going after Aemond because Rhaenyra asked for it. Daemon realistically wants to kill Aegon and his line of succession, the Hightowers all together, and he's not even paying any mind to Aemond. So the fact that Aemond sees this and he thinks it's recognition from Daemon shows you his deep desire for validation, even though it's the furthest thing from the truth. No one pays him any mind, but he has to give himself this self-importance because he has to matter in the grand scheme of things. And in this show, he is the one that started the war by killing Luke. But even though he's the one who started the war, no one is checking for Aemond. Outside of Rhaenyra, who wants vengeance for her son, Vhagar is the threat. No one is actually giving Aemond any sort of power or precedence to even talk. He's not in the small council meetings. When the others are plotting against them, they're talking about Aegon, they're talking about their line of succession. Aemond is far removed from their thought processes, but because he has Vhagar, because he achieved that power, he's put at the forefront, and that gives him his validation. We see that his actions are only for that cause, validation. Even when he is antagonizing Luke, it was never about killing Lucerys Velaryon. It was always about maybe just an apology, maybe apologizing for taking my eye, showing some sort of repentance because he's angry. He lost his eye and the world went on not caring. His father didn't care. The Velaryons never even apologized or offered to amend anything. So that whole thing was just to antagonize him. He never wanted Vhagar to actually eat Lucerys. Even when they were a child, he tried to reach out to Jace after Jace's actual father, Harren Strong, died, but he was rejected by bastards. The fact that everyone in the kingdom looks down on bastards and yet they're still held in higher regards to Aemond, that never sit right with him. That made him angry. The bastards took his eye, there was no justice. So he was always going to have a chip on his shoulders against the Velaryons. So when Vhagar eats Luke, you see the regret in Aemond's eyes, and we see in the scene in the whorehouse, we see that he never meant to do that. He was just angry. He has an anger in him. Alicent has mentioned the anger of being the second child, the anger of being neglected, the anger of wanting to be valued. Helena is valued above him. She's the queen. Aegon is valued above him. Rhaenyra is valued above him. We even find out that he has a younger brother, Daemon, who was taken to Old Town by the Hightowers to be raised in their faith. So even his younger brother was given a position of power in the family. It may not have been the Targaryen family, but it's still part of his family. No one has embraced Aegon, and that's why he's developed this need for maternal loving. He needs affection. He needs validation. So when his mom is busy, he goes to the whorehouse and he sits naked with a whore who, for all we know, is breastfeeding him and pleasuring him and doing all sorts of things, but he needs that. She listens to him. She validates him. She makes him feel strong and powerful and like a man. And we see him in his most vulnerable state, in the fetal position, and his body's contorted. It looks like he's alive only because of anger and only for the need to validate himself. He doesn't look like he eats. He doesn't look like he has fun. He only moves forward, presses forward for honor, glory, anger, vengeance. All of that sits on his soul, and it's contorting him to being the monster that he is. But at the core, if you strip it all down, he's just a boy who wants to be loved and acknowledged by his family. He wants them to show him importance. He steps into the small council meeting because he wants recognition. He wants to be part of the war effort. He wants someone to make him feel like he matters, and he's gonna find a way to do that any way possible. And the fact that he's a Targaryen with the biggest dragon, and we know throughout history of Westeros, Targaryens make their presence felt with their dragons, with their weapons of mass destruction, everyone should bow down to Aegon because he has Vhagar. Yet even though with Vhagar, that doesn't stop Daemon from wanting to combat him. That doesn't stop the blacks from wanting to press against the greens. Even though he has the most powerful dragon, no one is afraid of him, and that's gonna drive him to show them why they need to be afraid of him. But guys, that's just my thoughts on Aemond Targaryen. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. If you guys liked the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and until next time, binge on.